When digestion of polysaccharides produces high levels of glucose. So polysaccharides when their digestion produces glucose, right? These glucose molecules can be used to synthesize glycogen. This process is known as glycogenesis. So this synthesis starts when the glucose 6 phosphate. So remember, in the first step of glycolysis, glucose 6 phosphate is produced. Glucose 6 phosphate is produced. This glucose 6 phosphate will isomerize to give glucose 1 phosphate. That means what will happen is the phosphate group will move on to the first carbon. The phosphate group will move on to the first carbon. So you'll get the OP here. Then UDP, uridine triphosphate. UDP, just like UTP. Just like ATP, there is UTP. Right? So uridine triphosphate will react with this, and it will give rise to, this should be oxygen right here. This will give rise to phosphate linkage, uridine. Okay, this is known as UDP glucose. When this bond gets broken, I'm showing it with a different color. When this bond gets broken, this glucose unit that is generated, or the glucose that is released, it forms a glycosidic bond. With the end of a glycogen chain. Okay, so basically what happens is, this is one molecule, or the glucose that is released, right, when the oxygen bond is broken, when the phosphor bond is broken. What this does is it forms a 1,4 glycosidic bond. Okay, it forms a 1,4 glycosidic bond with another glucose unit. Then this 1,4 glycosidic bond keeps forming. Okay, so this is known as the process of glycogenesis. The enzymes involved, this is basically 3 steps: glucose 6 phosphate, isomerizes to give glucose 1 phosphate. This enzyme here is phosphoglucomutase. This will give UDP glucose. The enzyme involved here is pyrophosphorylase. And the UDP glucose will go through the bond cleavage at the phosphate bond and form a alpha 1,4 glycosidic bond to give rise to glycogen, and the enzyme involved here is glycogen synthase. Glycogen synthase.